Give me fuel, give me fire, give me double shot and live.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Chris, and welcome to today's play-by-play version of the Chevy Rock and Roll 400 here at the Richmond International Raceway. This is the second to last short track race on the schedule, so this one is going to be interesting. This track will be a lot more different compared to the spring race that we had earlier in the year, so expect a lot of different things to be happening around this track. Mainly one of them is the day into night transition that we're gonna have, and a couple of other factors as well, kind of like how Bristol kind of went with a day and night transition for one, but for two, the grip levels will also start kind of going up as well, so that'll be an interesting tidbit of information to kind of put into your guys' brains and, you know, keep note of, just to see what kind of happens later on in the race and all that sort of stuff. So there'll be a couple other things that we'll get into when we do this race, so that's not just all of it. But before we jump into today's race, let's take a look at the point standings coming out of Darlington last time out. So Zachary Smithly won at Darlington last time out, getting his 9th win of the season and 9th career win. And in doing so, he retains the point lead, but the points gap between himself and Jimmie Johnson has stayed the same. It is still 414 points between Zachary Smithly and Jimmie Johnson. Then you got Jeff Gordon in 3rd, Ryan Newman sits in 4th, Matt Kenseth in 5th, Ricky Rudd in 6th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 7th, Kevin Harvick in 8th, Jeff Green in 9th, and Kurt Busch rounds out the top 10 in points. And down to the top 20, you have Bill Elliott in 11th, Jay McMurray in 12th, Jeff Byrne in 13th, Dale Jarrett in 14th, Tony Stewart 15th, Mark Martin in 16th, Bobby Labonte in 17th, Jerry Nadeau 18th, Michael Waltrip in 19th, and Jeremy Mayfield rounding out the top 20. They got Sterling Marlin 21st, Terry Labonte 22nd, Rusty Wallace 23rd, Greg Biffle, 24th, Tony Raines 25th, Elliott Heller 26th, John Andrea 27th, Joe Nemechek 28th, Robbie Gordon 29th, and Casey Mears in 30th. And we'll scroll through the top 40, 50, and 60 before we jump into today's race, which is going to be a very interesting one, which will have a couple of returning drivers, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go on ahead and jump into this race, but first, let's get to the starting lineup. So here we are at the starting lineup to start tonight's race, and shockingly, not really, in row number 1, Jeff Gordon once again wins the pole for tonight's race, so he will start from the pole position today, and that'll be good for his championship battle against his own driver at JG4 Racing, Zachary Smithly. And to his outside, the guy he fought for the win in the spring against, Matt Kenseth in the 17. Row number 2, you'll find Matt Kenseth's teammates, the Roush duo of Mark Martin and Jeff Byrne. Mark Martin having a really strong second half of the season, looking to keep that momentum going tonight. Number 3, you will find Ricky Rudd and the rookie Jamie McMurray with his best qualifying result on a short track so far this season. Row 4, another driver with a good mid portion of the season, that being Tony Stewart. And to his outside, the current Winston Cup points leader, Zachary Smithly. Row number 5, it is the introduction for Hideo Fukuyama in the number 66 car. First time we'll see him this season, and hopefully we'll see him a couple more times later on this season. It'll be pretty cool to see Hideo a couple more times. And to his outside, fellow rookie, Greg Biffle. For number 6 today, you will find Mike Wallace returning the number 09 Dodge. And to his outside, Joe Nemechek with his future at Hendrick still in doubt. For number 7 today, you will find Dale Jarrett and Rusty Wallace. Row 8 today is Bobby Labonte and the man second in the point standings, Jimmie Johnson. Row 9 today, you will find the RCR teammates of Jeff Green and Kevin Harvick. Row 10, you'll find Ryan Newman and Kurt Busch still searching for that first win, and Ryan Newman hasn't won since Vegas earlier in the year. He would love to get a win at some point this season. Row 11 today, you will find Terry Labonte and Tony Raines. Row 12, Jack Sprague, who is competing at the track that almost ended his season early back in the spring. He will have his first go-arounds here at the Richmond International Raceway. And to his outside, Jeremy Mayfield, that beautiful-looking Mountain Dew number 19 Dodge. Row 13 today, you will find Jerry Nadeau and Elliott Sadler. Row 14 today, you will find Todd Bodine and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Row 15 today, you will find Michael Waltrip and John Andretti. Row 16, Dave Blaney and Robbie Gordon. Row 17 today, Ward Byrne with his future over at the Caterpillar Dodge for Bill Davis Racing still in doubt. And to his outside, Johnny Benson, still looking for a ride for next season. Row 18 today, it is Bill Elliott and Jason Keller. Row 19 today, it is Steve Park and Sterling Marlin. Row 20, Hermie Sadler and Casey Mears. Hermie Sadler driving a different number 02 car today. It is for the Virginia Tech football team. So that is a pretty cool car that he's driving tonight. Row 21 today will be Ricky Craven and Kyle Petty. Round of the field, row 22, it is Kenny Wallace. And tonight we have 9 DNQs. Those being Mike Wallace in the 4, Jimmy Spencer in the 7, Brett Bodine in the 11, Larry Foy in the 14, Shelby Howard in the 27, Christian Fittipaldi in the 33, Derek Cope in the 37, Ken Schrader in the 49, and Morgan Shepherd tried his hands at yet another qualifying effort to try to make the main show, and unfortunately he failed. So he's the 9th DNQ for tonight's race. And we have a little bit of track information before we jump into tonight's race. So the pit window should be around lap 65 to 75, to lap 65 to 75, excuse me. Tires, you can make it lap 65 to 70. You could stretch it a little bit longer, just kind of really depends. However, fuel, you could pretty much go throughout the entire pit window. Again, it's another one of those things where you can stretch it. The fuel for the short tracks, these drivers have a bunch of fuel, which for 2004, they are looking to maybe up the race distances for all short tracks to kind of combat this issue. So that's roughly around where you might be able to pit, which is within the pit window. But just got to keep an eye on that fuel, but also keep an eye on the tires, because you need tires to get around any racetrack, rather, especially here at Richmond. And then obviously track temps are going to be hot. They're hot for now, but the more we get into the night, it's going to get a lot more. The track's going to get a lot more colder. It's going to have a lot more grip in it, but also because the cars are going around it, it's still going to be hot no matter what. So just because the night might be cold and everyone else in the grandstands over here in turns 1 and 2 and even down the front straightaway might be cold, the track isn't going to be cold. Let's just say that much. And tire management is going to be the key factor for tonight. And to be honest with you, a lot of drivers, they're going to have to take note of this and keep note of it. And the question we've been asking all season long, we have a new winner or a new multi-time winner, as we have Zachary Smithly leading the way with 9 wins and a bunch of other drivers following suit behind. But let's go ahead and send up to the NBC boys of Alan Bezel, Wally Dallenbach, and Betty Parsons leads at the green flag.
Could help you win a trip to New York City to work as a special correspondent at this December's Winston Cup Award ceremony. Remember, who leads at lap 50? You'll need that information later on tonight. Well, what do you think? You got an early pick? You want to give the folks some advice?
Lap 50.
50.
Well, Ryan Newman would be a good.
I hear the Jeopardy music
Ryan
playing.
Newman? I'm going to go with somebody else. I just don't know who.
Indecision's a terrible thing. 400 laps around a 3/4 mile track, 300 miles tonight. A little over $4.4 million on the line. And who will it be holding the winner's trophy, which is actually a very nice Gibson guitar at the end of the Chevy Rock and Roll 400. Fans on their feet. Mark Martin now bringing the field down to the start of Richmond.
Just like in the spring, Jeff Gordon will lead lap number 1 here at the Richmond International Raceway to start the Chevy Rock and Roll 400. Just behind him, a little change in position between Mark Martin and Matt Kenseth. Mark Martin is now up to 2nd. Kenseth down to 3rd. And not really a whole lot of driver changes throughout the field. You see Zachary Smithly to the inside of Tony Stewart trying to grab 6th position. Just behind them, Zachary's rookie competitors, Greg Biffle and Jay McMurray, are battling it out for 8th place. First time we came here in the spring, Zachary Smithly did not have a good race. He actually finished the lowest so far this season. The worst finish he's had this far this season was the first race here at Richmond, and it was a 32nd, excuse me, beating out his Daytona 500 finishing position by 1 position. So he's definitely looking for a better end of the night tonight. And so far it's going pretty well. It's fighting Tony Stewart. Meanwhile, up ahead of him, Jeff Byrne and Ricky Rutter going at it for P4. So far, 3 Roush Racing cars are second, third, and fourth. Seems like it's going to stay that way for the time being. Just behind them, Tony Stewart taking the fight back on Zachary Smithly. Like we said before, Tony Stewart trying to continue his momentum that he's been having throughout the summer. And it looks like he's going to continue to do so as he clears Zachary coming off of turn 2, grabs 6th position. But Ricky Rudd and Jeff Burton still fighting ahead of him as they now come off turn 4. While this is going on, Jeff Gore, Mark Martin, and Matt Kenseth will continue to pull away. Seems like Ricky Rudd's going to have a nice run on the outside. Might be able to cut back down right in front of Jeff Burton as they come off of turn 2. And he will. Ricky Rudd up to 5th. Now Tony Stewart going to try the outside, try to grab 5th, excuse me, on Jeff Burton. As Rudd runs away with 4th. Zachary Smithly joining the frame, the Winston Cup points leader. There you see Johnson second in points, but about 4 cars back from Zach. But they got to pay attention to Jeff Gordon, who's currently leading. Speaking of Jeff Gordon currently leading, he's just now coming off of turn 4. We're coming on to lap 8, so let's go on ahead and do our lap 8 tribute to Kyle Busch. As that lap 8 tribute happened, Tony Stewart passed Jeff Burton around the outside. Zachary Smithly actually going to follow him through. He'll grab 6th as well, but Tony Stewart back under pressure from Zachary Smithly as they now fight over 5th, and Jeff Burton is now fighting Jamie McMurray to try to keep 7th position. Actually might be able to keep it. He does come down the back straightaway. Meanwhile, side by side for 5th is the point leader Zachary Smithly and the defending Winston Cup champion Tony Stewart in the 20. Zachary definitely has a lot more experience from the first time we came here. He's going to try to use that experience, try to wrap the bottom all the way around. Almost worked in the middle of or coming out of turns 1 and 2. See if he can try it again in 3 and 4. It's obvious that Zach has the momentum off these corners, or in the middle of these corners, I should say, to get the position. He does now over Tony. Zachary Smithly now up to 5th place. Ahead of Tony Stewart in 6th, Burton in 7th, Greg Biffle in 8th, Jay McMurray 9th, and Jimmie Johnson right at the top 10, but he's going to, looks like, pass Jay McMurray for 9th, coming out of the back straightaway. Maybe not actually pass him, but it'll be side by side as they go into 3. Jimmie Johnson fighting the rookies as you see Rusty Walls coming into frame. He had a good run last time out at Darlington, but unfortunately he couldn't make it to the end on fuel. So he unfortunately had to pit, lose some spots, and get a not-so-good finish. Meanwhile, Jimmie Johnson, speaking of Darlington last time out, almost came close to winning that race. However, once again, for the second week in a row, finishes 2nd, missing out on yet another win. And you see behind them, look at this big pack of cars just behind Dale Jarrett and Mike Wallace. Huge bundle of cars. Hideo Fukuyama is one of the drivers involved in this gigantic train, as you may call it, of just cars just trailing one another come out of these corners. See some cool paint schemes as well throughout this field, especially back here. You see Jeff Green in the 30's got a pretty cool scheme. You got Kevin Harvick at the 29 with a different scheme for tonight's race. Their teammate Steve Park is back there with a different scheme as well. There you see Jeremy Mayfield in that beautiful Mountain Dew number 19 Dodge. Trying to get around the outside of Dale Earnhardt Jr. There you see Jack Sprague in the Net Zero Pontiac, like we said earlier, competing in his first Richmond race, which is shocking to say, but we did mention how he didn't compete in the first one because he had a huge crash down here in turn 1 that almost cost his career and his season. Now we're heading on to lap 16, by the way, so let's go ahead and do lap 16 tribute to Biff. As we come on to lap 17, take a look at Jason Keller in the 04. Back in the spring, he drove Jack Sprague's number 0, and he drove for quite a bit this season until Jack Sprague was good enough to get back in the car and try to finish out the rest of the year. So that number 04 car is essentially reserved for Jason Keller And Keller so far right now doing a pretty decent job with holding a pretty good position at the top 20. Going further back, you see Steve Park and Robbie Gordon. This was the side of their last race in each of those cars. This was the side of Robbie Gordon's last race in that number 31 Chevy for RCR, and that was this was also the first, or this was the race back in the spring. That was Steve Park's final outing in the Pennzoil number 1 for DEI. Both driving different cars this time around, with Park in the 31, Robbie Gordon in the 1. And doesn't seem like there's anything going to change coming out of tonight, so they might be able to keep those seats for the remainder of the year. Look a little bit further up ahead, you see Zachary Smithly still holding it ahead of Dale Jr., holding it ahead of Tony Stewart. You see his title contender Jimmie Johnson trying to work the outside on Jeff Burton. He was able to get around Greg Biffle. With Zach up to 4th. He's only 8th place right now, Jimmie Johnson. Trying to battle Jeff Burton for 7th. If he can just roll this higher line, he might be able to do it. As you guys may have also noticed, the sun is going down. The track has now got no sun. There is no light from the sun doing this. So this is all just pure darkness now. See Rusty working the outside of Jeff Burton, trying to grab the 8th position off of Jeff, and it looks like he does. Dale Jarrett in the 88 trying to follow suit. Jamie McMurray in the 42, not really having a good race thus far. Or not good race, but not having a good go at trying to make his way up through the field or anything. Which unfortunately sucks for McMurray. Can't really do a whole lot about that, unfortunately. As you can see, Dale Jarrett going to the outside of Rusty Wallace. He's trying to take 8th spot away, and that 88 car seems to be pretty hooked up so far. Pretty much when the sun went down and the track got all the shade in the world, that 88 car is coming to life. And even though we're only 22 laps into the race, on lap 23 right now, still quite a bit of time for the 88 car to maybe get through the field. He might be a car to watch out for. Jarrett hasn't won since the first Pocono race early in the year, and maybe tonight might be the night where he might be able to do it. Who knows? But he'll have to somehow in some way get up to the 3 leaders of Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth, and Mark Martin, who have just absolutely pulled away from Zachary Smithly in 4th. And now each of the 3 leaders have kind of gotten a gap in between all 3 of one another. The biggest one being between Jeff Gordon and Matt Kenseth. Because Mark Martin is still pretty close to Kenseth. He's not really too far away, and Kenseth really isn't too far ahead of him. And he's kind of losing a bit of time to Gordon. Gordon will come around this time. And we'll have 100 laps to go here at Richmond, with a pit stop left to go through, and green flag pit stops are going to be interesting when we get to them, but so far, not to him quite yet. Gordon is just kind of cruising right now, as he's just kind of maintaining the lead, getting through these corners pretty well. And when we come off of turn 4, you kind of see the back of the lappers, starting with Kenny Wallace in the 23, but Gordon's got a ways to go until he catches him, so Jeff will probably not have to worry about him quite yet, and I don't think he's going to have to for a minute. Let's look back to Zachary Smithly in the 80, kind of pulling away from Tony Stewart, who's now under pressure from Ricky Rudd in the 21 behind him. And just behind them, Dale Jarrett's now putting the pressure on Jimmie Johnson, but the battle for 5th continues between Stewart and Rudd. Rudd running that higher line. If Rudd can get a good run off of turn 4, doesn't look like he gets enough momentum down the straightaway. Gets a little bit more. Was it going to 1 and 2? They're still side by side. Meanwhile, behind them, Jarrett side by side with Johnson for 7th. As Rudd and Stewart continue to fight it out for 5th. Rudd going to try to use that higher line to his advantage, and it looks like he's going to pay out nicely for the Motorcraft 4 of Ricky Rudd. He gets that ahead of Tony Stewart. So it seems like the higher line might be the line to go with for this race, it seems like. Maybe, who knows? Johnson now under pressure from Dale Jarrett. See the difference between Jarrett running the higher line and Johnson running the lower line. It just seems like the bottom is not really working out for some drivers, and the higher line is working out for a lot of others. See Tony Stewart coming back on Ricky Rudd. See if he's going to try the higher line, and pull a rut, and it seems like it's actually going to almost clear him going into turn 1. But as they come off turn 2, it might be Tony with the lead. Lead 5th. And he gets 5th over Rudd. So it seems like the outside line is pretty viable, it seems like, around here. Meanwhile, with all that happening, Zachary Smithly just kind of pulling away ever so slightly from Tony Stewart. Keeps 4th position and not really losing a whole lot of time. Meanwhile, back up ahead, it seems like the gap from the top 3 is kind of bunched back up a little bit. Interesting thing is even though they're closing in on Kenny Wallace, the lapper behind, or the first car of the lappers, they're not really closing in as fast. So I'm guessing Gore may have one of his cars kind of not liking the changeable conditions or whatever, and Kenseth and Martin's are, and that's why they're able to catch back up to Gordon, because Kenseth now is closing a lot of time on Gordon. Martin kind of losing a little bit to Kenseth behind. Get a little flyby going on. Got a big pack. Beautiful flyby. Doesn't get any better than that at Richmond. Does not get any better than that. But as you can tell, as we were doing the flyby, essentially, a lot of positions were changing, but also Gordon is slowly closing in on Kenny Wallace. It's not to say that Gordon isn't closing in on him. It's just very, very slowly. I think Matt Kenseth might be trying to close the gap even more on Gordon, because maybe Gordon doesn't want to catch Wallace as fast as possible, because Kenny really is close to the next car in front of him, which we believe is Ricky Craven in the 32. Which is a valid reason, but the only thing is he's going to want us to be able to stay ahead of Kenseth. He's got to be able to get up to the lap cars and pass them. We'll look back to Zachary now. Once again, Tony Stewart's actually closed the gap on Zachary quite a lot in the past couple of laps. Dale Jarrett in the 88 has just passed Ricky Rudd and Jimmie Johnson, so now he's up to 6th. But Zachary Smithly, the current Winston Cup points leader, going into this race 414 points ahead of the guy sitting in 8th, or rather side by side with Ricky Rudd for 8th place. Jimmie Johnson just behind him. Having a really good night at Richmond. These are the kind of nights that he needs to have if he wants to be able to keep his points lead the way he wants it to be. Zachary Smithly could become the first rookie in Winston Cup Series history to win a championship as a rookie. And this season has been stellar for him, and Tony Stewart can't say the same for him, but in recent weeks, it's gotten pretty good for Tony. He's got back-to-back top 5 finishes, but on the other hand for Zach, he's been doing really, really well. Even with an 11th at Bristol, he was still able to get the job done at Darlington, and maybe tonight will be another good night for him, who knows? Meanwhile, Jeff Gordon still slowly catching the back of Kenny Wallace, but Matt Kenseth, he's gotten closer. Now as we look at the racetrack now, the sun has completely went down. The only little bit of light is the after effects of the sunset. And here in a little bit, the skies will be dark. The lights have already come on. And things are going to change. And we're probably already seeing it as we've gone through the first 40 laps of this race. Look at Kenseth in the 17. He's kind of a little bit of a teeter-totter effect of him gaining some time on Gordon, losing time on Gordon, certain laps, gaining it all back, and then some, and then losing it again, and then gaining some back. And it's like Kenseth just kind of yo-yoing with the time that he's gaining and the time that he's losing to Jeff Gordon. Right now, he's keeping it a pretty good distance as him and Gordon. Mark Martin has fallen way off his teammate. Jeff Gordon, on the other hand, this is going to be problematic for him when he gets with Kenny Wallace and Ricky Craven, because they're both side by side fighting for 42nd. But he's going to have to be very, very cautious with it, because he doesn't know exactly what these two are going to do ahead, and that might affect his lead, especially with Kenseth being ever so close as they head down the back and into 3. Look at the amount of time that Kenseth just gained going into turn 3. He gained so much time on Jeff Gordon. think Gordon is starting to maybe feel the effects of tire wear, or maybe he's starting to get a little bit worried of the cars ahead of him. We're going to try to run a higher line in 1 and 2 to try to maybe gain some time back on Kenseth, but can't really do a whole lot because he's got to worry about the 2 lappers in front of him. It'll be interesting to see how Gordon navigates the lap cars, because he hasn't had to pass anybody so far tonight. Then again, when you win the pole, you kind of expect it. Craven and Kenny Wallace kind of settled out, them finding out for 42nd. It might help Gordon out a little bit, but Gordon might have to try running different. Might have to run different lines that he hasn't really run all night long, which is just the higher line. But in doing so, look at Kenseth. He's taking advantage of Gordon, not really putting the pressure on the 23 or putting the pressure on himself to pass the 23 so he can gain more time on Kenseth. That allows Kenseth to close to the back of the 24. And turns 3 and 4, look at Kenseth. He just kind of slides up the racetrack, trying to gain any time on Gordon. And it just seems like Gordon is just hopefully not stuck behind Kenny Wallace, but it won't surprise me. Here he goes to the outside. So Gordon jumps to the outside and running a line that he hasn't run so far tonight. But it will pay off for Gordon. He does pass Kenny, put him a lap down. Only problem is that Kenseth reacted very quickly and he followed Gordon the entire time. Gordon better watch out as they come on turn 2, because Kenseth's going to gain a heap of time on Jeff Gordon. You see Kenseth, he's coming at a rate of naught. But Gordon's still able to wrap the bottom pretty well. Kenseth's trying to maybe utilize that outside line, because it seems like the outside line has a little bit more grip than the bottom does. Then again, every driver's pretty much ran the bottom all night. So trying to utilize a different line is going to be preferred in some way, shape, or form. As all this is going on, Mark Barn actually in the 6 has actually caught up to the back of Kenny Wallace, and Mark Barn might actually be back in the frame. As speaking of drivers in the frame, Dale Jarrett actually passed Tony Stewart a little bit ago, and now he's going to fight Zachary Smithly here. Try to grab 4th off of him. Jarrett runs a little bit higher in 1 and 2. Zachary shuts the door coming off of turn 2. Zachary will hold 4th over DJ for the time being. We look ahead, Mark Barn to the inside of Kenny Wallace, trying to get around him. Meanwhile, Matt Kenseth still trying to see if Gordon's going to make a mistake and stay behind Ricky Craven. Ricky Craven, I almost said Ricky Rupp for some reason, but Ricky Craven in the 32. He's going to see if he stays behind him, but I don't think he will. There he goes. Craven just kind of moved to the outside, so that makes it easy on Gordon, kinda. He's not fully past him. We do have 75 to go, so a lot of time left on the table and a pit stop to go. There you have it. Jeff Gordon out now ahead of Ricky Craven, but immediately in front of him is the 45 of Kyle Petty. Gordon just can't catch a break with these lappers, but he jumps to the outside, gets right around him pretty easily, so now 2 cars are in between him and Kenseth. Now you can split the middle, but it is very, very risky to do so. Kenseth's trying to split the middle, it seems like. Ooh, gets a little bit off 2. Good on Kyle Petty to back out of it as we head down the back straightaway into 3. Kyle Petty backed out of it was probably the best decision he could have made in that fight that Gordon and Kenseth are having, because that would have just put a huge damper on whatever Kenseth's got going for him. And, well, in doing so, he's actually gained a bunch of time on Gordon. Gordon's really slow going into these corners, and it's allowing Kenseth, even in the middle, like Kenseth still has a lot of speed in the middle, and Gordon just doesn't have it. If Gordon keeps it, see if Kenseth goes to the bottom. He will go to the inside. What will Gordon do? Let's see if Gordon can maybe run the higher line. Oh, I think he went a little too high in 1 and 2. That might hurt him a little bit. Kenseth sticks to the inside of Gordon. Gordon stuck to the outside of Kenseth, but it seems like Kenseth's going to roll the bottom a lot more better. And off turn 4, first change of the lead tonight. Matt Kenseth on lap 55 passes Jeff Gordon. But here comes Gordon back to the inside, trying to get him off of 2. Kenseth has none of it. And Kenseth continues leading. Craven in the 32 actually may have thought about trying to get around Jeff Gordon as well, but probably wouldn't have been a good idea. Look at Gordon jumping right back to the inside of Matt Kenseth. Side by side once again as they go into turn 1. Kenseth still doing a really good job of holding the lead, and once again it seems like Gordon just can't run that higher line, so off 2. Kenseth has it still. Gordon's able to, not Gordon, but Kenseth, he's able to run that middle line and have a lot more success as he rolls through the center and coming off the corner, as he's just able to keep it ahead of Jeff Gordon. And so far, he's been able to do so the entire time, and Gordon just really hasn't been able to keep his car on the bottom or just have his car roll through the corner. He kind of dove it into 1 and 2 a little bit, but Kenseth keeps his calm, keeps his composure, and just gets a better run off the corner. He carries that momentum into 1 and 2, and it's just kind of game over for Gordon until he can maybe do something, but it's kind of hard for Gordon to do anything at this point. And I'm saying this as if Kenseth's pulling away from Gordon, but he's not really pulling away from Jeff a whole lot. It's just Kenseth's just trying to run different lines. He's catching lap cars and trying to figure out where to go, but also where to place his car to prevent Gordon from getting around him. We think down the front straightaway, they may have actually sealed the deal on Jeff Gordon, because Kenseth just kept the lead off the corner and gave no margin for error for Jeff. And Mark Martin, the 6th, is actually passing the lappers really nicely. So the Roush cars seem to be pretty good so far coming through these lap cars or this lap traffic. Because now the 3 leaders have no cars in between either of them. So Gordon is still running down Kenseth, but Mark Martin, he'll be able to run down Gordon. But ahead of them, Johnny Benson and Casey Mears are in front of Kenseth. So will this play a factor into Kenseth trying to pull away from Gordon? Because he was a little bit, not so much right now. With Benson and Mears side by side, this is going to hurt Kenseth quite a bit. But also behind them, Craven just got to the inside of Mark Martin. So both Roush cars are kind of in their own little predicament as they have tonight. But Kenseth's able to roll the outside once again past Mears, continuing that momentum down the straightaway past Benson. And he runs an extra lane higher than everybody else, and he just passes them outright. So good job to Matt Kenseth on passing both those lap cars to keep the position over, or not even keep the position, but to just pass him and put some distance between himself and Jeff Gordon. As Dale Jarrett now has actually passed Zachary Smithly. He's up to 4th now. He's now to the inside of Kenny Wallace. These two trying to pass their first lap car of the night. Zachary down to 5th. Jarrett kind of pushing Kenny Wallace up the track, kind of a bit of an annoyance, it looks like, on Jarrett's behalf. Wondering why Kenny was racing him so hard, especially when he's got a fast car like Zachary Smithly just behind him. Even Zach made a little bit of contact with Kenny, trying to tell him to get him out of the way. All up in the front. Kenseth still picking off lappers 1 by 1 as Mark Martin is just trailing behind Jeff Gordon. As the first round of pit stops are actually going to be coming up here sometime soon. As we see the battle for second going on between Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin. Gordon goes to the outside of Benson to get the spot. Meanwhile, we got a car on pit road, and it is Jeff Burton. He brings Rusty Wallace with him. Jay McMurray, Bob the Bonnie are also down pit road with him as well. So our first set of drivers on pit road getting fuel and tires. Drivers might have to take a whole lot of fuel because of the amount that they started with in this race. Meanwhile, you see Mark Martin getting a little bit closer to Jeff Gordon. It's problematic for Jeff Gordon as he's still currently trying to run down Matt Kenseth, but it is not working out in Gordon's favor. As we look back to Dale Jarrett and Zachary Smithly, and we have more cars coming down pit road. We saw a few of them leave not that long ago. As we see Tony Stewart giving up 6th position to come down pit road. Looks like by his lonesome. There might be a possibility there's a couple other drivers, but so far we just know of Tony being down pit road. Just looking over the commentary box. A couple more drivers just came down pit road as well with Tony. As even at the top of the screen, you saw Jason Keller in the 04. And then John Andretti was another one. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Gorin able to kind of pull away a little bit from Mark Martin. Matt Kenseth put quite a bit of distance on Jeff Gorin and Mark Martin. He just put a hefty distance on the two. These drivers that just came down pit road are coming off. We're seeing the battle ensue between Jeff Gorin and Mark Martin as they have the lappers of Dave Blaney and Casey Mears ahead of them. As we see a couple more drivers coming down pit road. This group led by Greg Biffle. See Mike Wallace behind him on the bottom right of the screen. Just behind Biffle, we saw Mike Wallace. As Gorin and Mark Martin, they continue to stay out. So does Matt Kenseth. The front three stay out. Dale Jarrett stayed out as well. Zachary Smithly stayed out. See Biffle out and away. See Gorin and Mark still kind of going at it for position. We see Steve Park down pit road. Jack Spray's down pit road. There's Tony Raines, the 74 down pit road. A lot of takers so far with the drivers being down pit road. Meanwhile, up at the front, Matt Kenseth still pulling away. There's even more lap cars in between Jeff Gorin and Mark Martin. So we just saw Elliott Sadler on the top of the screen come down pit road. As we look once again, now it's just not only is it Elliott Sadler that came down pit road, but Rocket Man Ryan Newman also came down. As the leaders continue to stay out. Those being Kenseth, Gordon, Martin, Jarrett, and Smithly. The top 5 continue to stay out. However, you gotta wonder if maybe the fresh tires are maybe what these drivers mainly want. And that's why Kenseth, Gorin, Martin, Jarrett, and Smithly are staying out. Never mind, Jarrett is coming in. As you see on the bottom right of the screen, he'll give up 4th. He'll give it back to Zachary Smithly. So Dale Jarrett, the first one out of the top 5 to come down pit road, get serviced, and be out and away. As Kenseth, Gorin, Martin, and Smithly still do not come down pit road. Saw Jeff Green down in the bottom right that came in. See a couple more drivers down the bottom right that are coming in. Jerry Nadeau is one of them. As we also see another driver ahead of him, it's Bill Elliott in the 9 that came in. Got more behind him. Seems like Dave Blaney in the 77, it looks like, down there. Yep, it is Dave Blaney in the 77 that came down pit road, along with Kyle Petty in the 45. A couple of lappers that came down pit road. Meanwhile, this time around, Kenseth still does not come in. We do have more drivers that are coming down pit road as we speak. So you see second place in points, Jimmie Johnson down pit road. Dave Blaney just leaving ahead of him. Now Johnson's out and away with his service all done. Meanwhile, we look back to Kenseth, who is still not coming in, and he's got 5 drivers ahead of him. Meanwhile, Gorin and Martin, they've got no one separating them, but they also don't come in. And neither does Zachary Smithly in the 80. Wow. So the top 4 still don't come into the pits. That is actually really shocking as we see Johnny Benson coming out of the pits right now. Got a couple more just ahead of Matt Kenseth coming in there. You see Robbie Gorin, the 1 coming in. You see Hermie Sadler as well. Down the bottom right is Terry Labonte coming into the pits. You're probably wondering where Hermie Sadler is in the bottom right. Well, he actually has one of the pit stalls towards the end, or towards the entrance of pit road, just like Casey Mears in the 41. As we see both drivers of Robbie Gorin and Terry Labonte, the bottom right of the screen, get out and away. The front 3 don't pit. Does Zachary pit this time? As you see Zachary just behind Blaney, and no, he does not. So Zachary Smithly does not pit. See a couple of drivers coming out, those being Robbie Gorin, Hermie Sadler, and there's Terry Labonte in the 5. We look to Matt Kenseth once again. He doesn't come into pit. However, a couple more just came in. Joe Nemechek in the 25 is one of them. So it's kind of the drivers coming into the pits. It's almost kind of spread out a little bit. Not everyone's coming down the pit road at the same time, and some drivers, like the front 4 leaders, are kind of staying out, trying to bank on fresher tires towards the end. So we see Mark Martin grab second over Jeff Gordon. You know, up ahead, you see Todd Bodine coming down pit road. And Zachary Smithly, oh, he was coming up pit road, and now Zachary. Oh, man, he came close to that wall. Holy moly. What in the world happened to Zach? The caution is out. But what in the world happened there? Zach, we believe, was going to get onto pit road. And it's almost like his car just got loose and he tried correcting and he overcorrected it. And somehow, in some way, Zachary Smithly did not hit that wall. That is a huge amount of luck for Zachary Smithly at 80 car. Let's take a look from the blimp, the Lightyear blimp, our good pal. Give him some more screen time. Oh, man. Zach came so close to hitting that wall. I'm not too sure what happened because it seemed like Zach was trying to get onto pit road and the car shot to the right. Maybe he shifted down too early. Let's see. Let's run on board with him. Let's see if we can hear it. Oh, that's where it was. When Zach shifted down the rears because he didn't lower his RPM enough. Because he didn't lower his RPM, his rear tires are spinning faster still. And in turn, it made his car do that. Oh, man. That does suck for Dale Jarrett, though, as he was a lap down. But I think he might be getting the free pass or the lucky dog. So you look to Kenny Wallace's view. Yeah, just from the drivers behind him, it just looks like Zach just turned left and then shot to the right for no reason. But when he shifted down and you can even hear the rear spinning, he was carrying way too much RPM. We don't even think he would have been able to get down pit road, but the fact he missed that outside wall just barely is actually crazy to think about. After all those replays, we see the leaders now coming down pit road with Sterling Marlin as well. And this will change everything. As a lot of the drivers that are staying out on the racetrack have already come down pit road. They're good all the way to the end. But drivers like Kevin Harvick, Jerry Mayfield, Ricky Rudd, even Zachary Smithly in the 80, Michael Waltrip in the 15, this is going to be a good day for those drivers, including the leaders of Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin, and Matt Kenseth. As Matt Kenseth comes off the pits, he'll still be Jeff Gordon out. And Mark Martin will actually be Jeff Gordon out of the pits. Wow. So, another unexpected twist as well, where Mark Martin actually was able to beat Jeff Gordon off pit road. We know Martin came in ahead of Gordon. We didn't actually know if he was actually going to be able to beat him. But this is going to be a very, very, very interesting restart when we go back racing, as Dale Jarrett doesn't get the lucky dog, as Jerry Nadeau in the 01 was actually ahead of Dale Jarrett at the time of caution. So Jerry Nadeau in the U.S. Army Pontiac will actually get the lucky dog. All these other drivers that were ahead of the leaders, they essentially get, I guess you could say, the wave around, but they were already ahead of the leaders. But when they did come into pit, so they did essentially pass them, I guess. Maybe not drivers from Elliott Sadler down to a certain point, but some of the drivers that were behind the leaders did technically get a wave around. But now we have one lap to green, and now drivers like Tony Stewart, Dale Jarrett, Rusty Wallace, and Jeff Burton are indeed back on the lead lap as well because of the wave around. The only difference is that the leaders are going to line up directly behind them. So McMurray, Johnson, Biffle, Labonte, Newman, Green, Raines, Wallace, Nemechek, Earnhardt Jr., Andretti, Labonte, Kurt Busch, Hideo Fukuyama, all those drivers are going to be starting in front of the leaders, but some of them are lapped down, others aren't. And we're going to go back racing here at Richmond, led by the Robert Yates duo of Elliott Sadler and Dale Jarrett. Dale Jarrett takes off. He is frustrated because this is how his night's going to pretty much end for him. So he'll take off. He's gone. And now we're back underway, so we have to go all the way back to Matt Kenseth to the 17, just behind the 66 of Hideo Fukuyama in his first race here at Richmond. See, Matt Kenseth just kind of not really able to go really anywhere because of this restart, but also they're really stuck behind all these lappers. And the caution bunched of everybody, so 44, now 44 to go. Lock and change. Kevin Harvick right up, you see the top of the screen running fourth. We did mention that with that caution, it changes the game for drivers like him, like Mayfield, like Waltrip, but Gordon to the outside of Matt Kenseth trying to grab the lead back. Both these drivers trying to for the second time this season and trying to gain some points on point leader Zachary Smithly, who brought out the racing yellow. Didn't go a lap down or anything, but going around the outside, he'll grab the lead as they come off a 2. Speaking of Zachary Smithly, he's back there with Ricky Rudd and Michael Waltrip and Jerry Nadeau. See if we'll gain any positions off of those two, but Jeff Gordon back out front of Richmond. Ahead of Kenseth the 17, Martin the 6, and Jeremy Mayfield in the Mountain Dew Dodge, running in 4th and Kevin Harvick in 5th. Michael Waltrip sits in 6th, Zachary Smithly 7th, Jerry Nadeau in 8th, Ricky Rudd 9th, and Dale Jarrett is rounds at the top 10. He's a ways out ahead in front of the leaders, but he's doing pretty good so far. Stays out that top 10. But man, Zachary Smithly, for the second time, or rather the third time it feels like this season, a caution that he's involved in changes the complexity of the race. First it was New Hampshire, then it was Michigan a couple races ago, or a few races ago, I should say. And now here tonight at Richmond, once again, Zachary Smithly brings out a caution, and it changes the complexity of the race. I get the feeling that Zach is kind of a master of doing that kind of thing, because he's done it 3 times, and 3 times it has been insane to the finish. However, I don't think anything can really top the Rowdy Forever 400. I'm just going to say that continuously till the end of time. But Jeff Gordon just continuing to pull away in that 24 car. I think they finally hit the setup on the 24 car. He is flying now. The Roush teammates at Kenseth and Martin 2nd and 3rd. Jeremy Mayfield just an unbelievable run in 4th right now. Meanwhile, back up front, Jeff Gordon, look at the amount of cars that are in front of him. And Matt Kenseth following him on the outside. But the problem is Kenseth really can't go anywhere because really Gordon isn't going anywhere. You can't really make anything work on the bottom because you can't really move on the bottom either. Your only option really is the middle, but not really. There's not really a whole lot of drivers that have taken the chance to try to go through the middle. Jeff Gordon, he's going to try to stay calm, stay patient. Try to see where he can pass these cars. See if maybe the outside line will continue to move, which so far it's continuing to move forward, which is exactly what Gordon wants. Some of his competitors are on the outside line with him. Drivers such as Kenseth's up there. Mark Martin actually cut back down to the inside. Harvick's down there, Zach's down there, but Kenseth, Mayfield, Waltrip, they're all on the outside line. The inside line's kind of broken up a little bit. That might help Gordon out because some drivers might be vying for the bottom, but Gordon will just go to the outside and pass some drivers like Dale Jr. and Tony Raines. Or Raines will just get them both on the inside. Kenseth drops to the bottom, but maybe that might not be too good for Kenseth because I think the outside is now starting to move forward, and Kenseth now can't get back to the outside because Marlin is directly to the outside of Kenseth. Not anymore now, but he was. And Jeremy Mayfield has actually passed Mark Martin for 3rd. We haven't said Mayfield's name a whole lot during the summer portion of the season since really Michigan, and now we're saying his name again, and it actually feels really nice saying his name. Jeremy Mayfield might actually be a serious threat to win this race. He just needs to be able to get through the field and actually be the competitor that we think he might be. But Jeff Gordon is going to be his main problem, his main threat. There's a lot of drivers back there that could definitely catch Gordon and pass him with the lappers and everything as slow as they are, and some drivers just slower than others, and drivers like Earnhardt Jr., Terry Labonte, and Kurt Busch getting caught up behind Tony Raines, which doesn't seem like they have a good car so far. Kind of slowing them up a little bit. Mayfield just passed Kenseth for second. Meanwhile, behind them, there was kind of a three-wide battle going on between Waltrip, Smithly, and Hideo. You kind of guess which one of the three backed out of it. Roll up ahead with Mayfield in second. Martin trying to grab third on Kenseth. And Mayfield might actually try to make a run on Gordon. As they now have 26 laps to go here at Richmond. Gordon just continuing to run that higher line. He's been on the outside line pretty much since the restart. He hasn't dropped to the inside. I think now he drops to the inside. As Martin does fully complete the pass on Kenseth, we think that Waltrip might actually get Kenseth here off the corner. He doesn't, but he is close, and Waltrip can do it. Michael Waltrip's been pretty abysmal during the summer portion of the season. The spring was where he shined the most, and tonight it seems like kind of a bit of a revitalized Michael Waltrip as he's able to push on and continue marching forward. This might help out the last portion of the season for him. We'll have to wait and see, but this battle for the lead is going to get really interesting, but the battle for fourth is getting even more interesting. Waltrip trying the higher line. Zach almost made it 3 wide again between Waltrip and Kenseth. Oh, Waltrip actually tagged the wall a little bit. Got a little bit of squeeze by Kurt Busch in the 97. Doesn't seem like he has too much damage. May have given the outside wall a little bit of a kiss, but it's okay. Waltrip up to fourth, Kenseth down to fifth. Zachary Smithly trying to roll that outside, try to grab fifth spot over Kenseth. Zachary just right now trying to get his best career finish here at Richmond, which so far it's 32nd. Don't think he really wants to finish any lower than that. He really can't finish any lower than that unless he crashes out. But Zachary, drops to the inside right in front of Kenseth, and just behind his teammate Kurt Busch. Can't really make it go anywhere on the bottom. Mark Martin the 6th, though, he might have a shot at Gordon, but he just needs to pass Jeremy Mayfield. But Gordon is running away. Look at how far ahead Gordon is compared to Mayfield in the 19. But also just look at the amount of people that are separated, or that are just in front of the 19 and the 6. And Gordon actually has a lot of clean racetrack ahead of him. He doesn't have to deal with any more side-by-side action. He's just got single file cars from Ricky Craven all the way up to Dale Jarrett in the 88. Look at Zach to the inside, 3 wide, 1-2 times, and he gets Waltrip. Can he get him off of turn 4 and grab fourth? No. Yes, actually, never mind. What a move by Zachary Smithly going into turn 3. Holy moly, don't get any better than that, don't feel like. Zachary Smithly just continuing to move up. Now he sees Mark Martin and Jeremy Mayfield just ahead of him. See if he can catch him in these final 19 laps, but I said it before, Jeremy Mayfield's having a little bit of difficulty trying to get around these lap cars because they're on the fresher. These guys, the leaders are on the fresh tires, and the lappers, they aren't. They're on about 40, 50 lap old tires, almost 50 lap old tires. They're on 40 lap old tires right now. Just trying to make it go all the way to the end. But Gordon still continuing to hold the lead as we see Mark Martin jumps to the outside of Jeremy Mayfield trying to grab second. Zachary just behind them made a 3-way with Bobby Labonte and Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's now to the outside of Ward Burton. Seems like Mayfield will keep second over Mark Martin for the time being. Here comes Zachary joining the frame. 3-man battle for second place. And a distant fourth to the next guy behind, or the next guy in fifth, excuse me, which is the 15 of Michael Waltrip fighting Matt Kenseth right now. Mark Martin actually got the pass on Jeremy Mayfield all done, so Jeremy Mayfield down to third, Martin up to second. Here comes Zach to the outside of Mayfield trying to grab third. Zachary doesn't get him that time going to the corner. He does go a little bit higher in 1 and 2. Zachary really hasn't been on the outside all race, so a little bit different for Smithly. But now second, third, and fourth are all on the outside line, just trying to go around these lappers. It doesn't seem like Mayfield can really make a move on Martin. Even if he thought he could, he really couldn't because his door kind of closed a little bit. With 15 laps to go, though, Jeff Gordon has caught the back of the Chip Ganassi duo of Casey Mears and Jay McMurray. Oh, they actually made a little bit of contact with McMurray? I think he actually made a little bit of contact with McMurray. He had to lift a lot more, and he's actually got damage to the left front now once again. We actually got into the back of Jay McMurray, which was not on our bingo cards. What in the world? But Mark Martin actually got around Mike Wallace. Try to clear him and put some distance between himself and Jeremy Mayfield. Mayfield just trying to hold on to that third, but it'd be clear and obvious to everyone else that Zachary Smithly, the 80 car, is a lot more quicker, and he could definitely get around the 19 of Mayfield if he wanted to. But Mayfield just following in the tracks of Mark Martin now, as Martin is just running the higher lines. Jeff Corrin up ahead, still stuck behind Jay McMurray in the 42. Whoa, Zachary actually got a little bit, went really high and wanted to push Mike Wallace up the track. But drop to the inside, goes 3 wide with Kyle Benny and Jeremy Mayfield. Oh, Mayfield backed out of it. Another risky 3-wide move you don't want to make at Richmond, and sometimes just drivers will make it, and that driver just so happens to be Zachary Smithly, who is the championship leader, just trying to make it even more difficult on Jeff Gordon as he's trying to continue his fight towards his 5th title. And his own driver is what stands in his way of getting that 5th championship, at least for this season. Jeff actually did get around Jay McMurray to put him a lap down. He's going to try to go at the outside of Casey Mears, put him a lap down now. As we have 10 laps to go at Richmond. But Jeff Gordon, we mentioned it, how he wasn't really able to run the higher lines earlier in the race because he mainly ran the bottom, and now it seems like he's just running the higher lines, trying to get around the lap cars. It seems like it's working out. Meanwhile, behind him, Mayfield actually went back on Zachary. Mayfield actually got a really good run off of turn 2 down the back straightaway to grab 3rd back on Smithly. Look at Smithly, he gets a really good run off of turn 4, and he's actually going to be able to carry it down to 1. Go side by side once again with Jeremy Mayfield, trying to grab 3rd once more. Problem for both is that they each have a lap car in their lane. See which one might be able to get the better of one another. As it might be Smithly craving west to the outside to make room for Smithly, and it seems like it'll work out for him. He'll grab 3rd off of Mayfield, and that might be all she wrote for Smithly, as he's just stuck behind these lap cars. He's gonna make it 3 wide again, just in front of Mayfield. He does. No contact made, but another risky move by Smithly. The things this kiddo does in his bid for the title this season. But he cleared him. Now he can try to sit after Mark Martin and try to grab 2nd, but maybe a 3rd will just suffice for Smithly, as Jeff Gordon has run away with it, and Gordon has led the most laps tonight. But it is safe to say he's not really going to gain a whole lot of much needed points coming out of tonight as he would have liked. Jeff Gordon going into this race, he had only won once in the entirety of the 2003 season. And funnily enough, it came here in the spring race at Richmond. In the spring race, Jeff Gordon had to fend off and actually beat back Kenseth just like he had to do tonight. And Jeff Gordon, just like in the spring, has dominated this race. And Jeff is only 4 laps away from adding his name to the list of multi-time winners in 2003. Putting him alongside drivers such as Zachary Smithly, Ryan Newman, Jeff Burton, Dale Earnhardt Jr. The latter of which he's fighting for a championship against. That man sits in 3rd currently, just behind Mark Martin and just ahead of Mayfield. The other competitor currently right now is fighting Robbie Gordon. And that man was Jimmie Johnson. He actually clears Robbie Gordon and actually gets out ahead of him and stays ahead of him. 2 to go at Richmond. Gordon has come so close so many times this season to a win. And not even just getting his first win of the season was difficult enough. The second one has been even more difficult, and the amount of points he has lost in the amount of times he's finished second or just come so close so many times. And with 1 lap to go, Gordon might finally be able to write that off as they head down the back into turn 3 and 4 one more time tonight. Jeff Gordon is going to pull off the season sweep here at Richmond. He'll win the Chevy Rock and Roll 400 tonight. Congratulations to Jeff Gordon, now becoming the 5th different multi-time winner of the 2003 season, putting him alongside Dale Earnhardt Jr., Ryan Newman, Jeff Byrne, and his main title contender, Zachary Smithly. What a job well done for Jeff Gordon. And funnily enough, he's won both Richmond races, which he is also now the first driver to win 2 races he's the first driver to sweep the season races at one track in particular. And he did so here at Richmond tonight. So Jeff Gordon broke that, as we mentioned last week at Darlington. That hadn't happened so far this season, and well, Gordon made it happen. So there you have it. You gotta love season sweeps sometimes, and this might actually help Gordon out a lot as we head towards the latter half of the season. We'll kind of have to wait and see what will happen at that point. But all in all, really good race. Not gonna lie, really good race. So I think really the only thing now left to do is to just go on ahead and check out the finishing positions coming out of Richmond tonight. So Jeff Gordon completes the season sweep here at Richmond, winning for the 2nd time this season. And he'll gain 20 points on Zachary Smithly coming out of tonight. You got Mark Martin in 2nd, Zachary Smithly in 3rd, Jeremy Mayfield in 4th, Michael Waltrip in 5th, Matt Kenseth in 6th, Kevin Harvick in 7th, Ricky Rudd 8th, Jerry Nadeau in 9th, and Dale Jarrett rounds out the top 10 tonight. You got Tony Stewart in 11th, Jeff Byrne in 12th, Jimmie Johnson in 13th, Ryan Newman 14th, Sterling Marlin in 15th, Jay McMurray in 16th, Joe Nemechek 17th, Terry Labonte in 18th, Mike Wallace with a 19th, not that bad for him, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. rounds out the top 20. Then you got Greg Biffle 21st, Kenny Wallace in 22nd, Rusty Wallace in 23rd, Kurt Busch 24th, Bobby Labonte 25th, Tony Reyes 26th, Hideo Fukuyama in his first outing in 27th, Jeff Green 28th, John Andretti 29th, and Todd Bodine finishes in 30th. Then you got the Sadlers of Elliott Sadler 31st and Hermie Sadler 32nd, Bill Elliott 33rd, Robbie Gordon 34th, Jack Sprague 35th, Jason Keller 36th, Casey Mears 37th, Steve Park 38th, Dave Blaney 39th, and Ricky Craven finishes in 40th. Then you got the final 3 finishing positions of Kyle Petty 41st, Johnny Benson 42nd, and Ward Burton finishes last in 43rd once again this season. Not too good for that Caterpillar Dodge of Ward Burton, I'm not going to lie. Wish it could have ended a lot more differently for him, and it just seems like it's not going that way. It sucks. It really does. It really does suck that that's not going the way we want it to. But other than that, though, another really good race. And another twist in the championship fight for our main 3 protagonists of Zachary Smithly, Jeff Gordon, and Jimmie Johnson. As it also just kind of seems like that we're kind of adding a couple more drivers into it seems like, for the fight for the championship. And those drivers are Ryan Newman and Matt Kenseth, as they've technically been title contenders all season. But tonight, you'll probably add their names fully into the conversation of that, even if Ryan Newman didn't finish that well tonight. But They're just above 3 races ahead. Jeff Gordon and Jimmie Johnson. Meanwhile, Ryan Newman and Matt Kenseth are 3 almost at 4 races behind Zachary Smithly, which is actually insane coming out tonight. Which, speaking of which, let's go on ahead and take a look at the updated point standings coming out of Richmond tonight. This is going to be a fun one. So, coming out of Richmond, Zachary Smithly maintains his points lead over Jeff Gordon in second place. Then and now ahead of Jeff Gordon, in second place, now by 445 points. So even though Jeff Gordon is second in points, now ahead of Jimmie Johnson, the gap has went from 414 points back to 445 points. So Zachary actually gained 31 points on second place, which is unheard of, but he did. And so Zachary Smithly is just, he's got some good luck coming his way. I can tell you that right now. But he's ahead of Jeff Gordon in second. Jimmie Johnson's now third. Ryan Newman in fourth. Matt Kenseth fifth. Ricky Rudd sixth. Dale Earnhardt Jr. seventh. Kevin Harvick in eighth. Jeff Green ninth. And Kurt Busch rounds out the top 10. You got Jamie McMurray in 11th. Jeff Burton 12th. Bill Elliott in 13th. Dale Jarrett 14th. Mark Martin is up to 15th. Tony Stewart 16th. Bobby Labonte 17th. Jerry Nadeau in 18th. Michael Waltrip in 19th. And Jeremy Mayfield, with a really stellar finish tonight, finishes in 20th. You got Sterling Marlin in 21st. Terry Labonte 22nd. Rusty Wallace in 23rd. Greg Bevel 24th. Tony Raines in 25th. Elliott Sadler 26th. John Andretti 27th. Joe Nemechek 28th. Robbie Gordon 29th. And Casey Mears rounds out the top 30. You got Johnny Benson 31st, Dave Blaney 32nd, Kyle Petty 33rd, Steve Parker 34th, Kenny Walls 35th, Ricky Craven 36th, Ward Burn 37th, Todd Bodine 38th, Jimmy Spencer 39th, and Ken Schrader rounds out the top 40 tonight. In points, that is. Then Larry Foy 41st, Mike Skinner 42nd, hopefully we'll see him next time out. Jack Sprague 43rd, Jason Keller 44th, Mike Walson 45th, Scott Pruitt 46th, Chris Fittipaldi 47th, Hermie Sadler 48th, Casey Iowa 49th, and Boris rounds out the top 50. And with the addition of Hideo Fukuyama, the top 60 now has 11 drivers on it, because there really wasn't a need to make a top 70 because it's only one driver. So there's now 61 in the top 60. Led by Kerry Earnhardt 51st, Shelby Howard 52nd, Buckshot Jones 53rd, Derek Cope 54th, Brett Bodine 55th, Hideo Fukuyama 56th, Kirk Shelmerdine 57th, Bobby Hamilton Jr. 58th, Kevin LePage 59th, Morgan Shepherd 60th, and now David Green 61st position. So 61 drivers have competed in the 2003 season. 61. And we're through 26 races. That is insane. Oh, man. It's going to get even more crazier from here, as the next race, which we said in the in-car version was going to be the Sylvania 300 at New Hampshire, but actually, due to a little bit of a schedule issue at the beginning of the year, and unfortunately not changing around the schedule to how it should be, instead of New Hampshire being the next race is going to be the EA Sports 500 at Talladega. Should be a lot of fun. Should be interesting, safe to say, considering that we don't normally have a super speedway immediately after Richmond. So this is definitely a first, I must say, but it'll be interesting to see how it all kind of goes. And I think it's going to be interesting, safe to say, on how everything will kind of play out at Talladega. Not too sure how it'll be, but hey, we'll definitely see when we get there. But that's good for me today, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you guys did, leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification down below for some more. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's race. Sorry that it took a little bit longer to get out. I know I kind of wanted to get some more races out before, we went to Talladega kind of thing, and unfortunately just kind of life got in the way and all that stuff. So hopefully you guys are okay with this race coming out a little bit after the Brickyard 400 that took place earlier today. But other than that, though, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day, everyone. I love you all so very much, and goodbye.